This is one of the weirdest LEGO parts ever. It's a scorpion from a single LEGO Technic set from 1999 with 0 connection points to any other LEGO part. I love weird parts like this and really want to make use of it in my own model. These sticker eyes are just asking for it to be used as a head in a bigger model. So today, let's give this truly weird part a new lease on life and build a fully custom underwater squid supervillain. To start, we need to figure out some way of connecting to the scorpion part. I think if we add in some eyebrows, maybe we can use them to sandwich this part into place. For the bottom slice of sandwich bread, let's use this lift arm, which I'll add some rounded plates and bars to. Then, let's add in that delicious scorpion accoutrement and lock it in place with some eyebrows. Next, I want to add a toothy grin here. We can use an orca jaw for that. But I need to figure out some way to connect it in. A T-bar and some half pins seem to be the right dimension to clip into the jaw. Next, we can assemble some Technic structure to connect everything together. I'll add that to the head, and then attach that toothy grin. Now we need an upper jaw, and these Ninjago sword hilts are perfect for the job. Getting them positioned at the correct angle will require some clips, and the all-important burnt hot dog. Let's clip the teeth in to complete his grin. For some squid detail, let's use this transparent green bit. We can build it up with some clips, and then a pair of little snot bricks. Some transparent slopes can attach into this brick before being added to the assembly. Next, let's build up some structure required to attach in another windscreen. A pair of robot hands will allow for this to join into the rest of the head. Now, I want to cover up the white of the orca jaw so that only the teeth are visible. This shoulder armor should be perfect for that job. The magic parts that make a lot of my builds possible are these rounded plates and rods, which I'll use here to connect a socket and that shoulder armor. Then, that can lock into place on the head. With that, our character's head is done, and we can move on to his squid arms / tentacles. Here, let's make liberal use of these big macaronis, and use the opportunity to hide as many filthy red axles as possible. Near the end here, we can incorporate a green macaroni for a little pop of color. Then, we can cap it off with a horn part and a dino tail. Looking good, we just need to add in a shoulder connection. For that, I'll thread a ball joint onto this stopper axle, and then add a rounded tile and a plate. Let's connect that in to complete the tentacle. By changing around how the macaronis are attached together, we can get some very differently shaped tentacles. Another slight difference that we can add in is to use an elephant trunk rather than a dino tail. Let's add a clip here. And then, let's steal this knife from Aquashark 1. These old chrome parts are a lot of fun, but I get why LEGO stopped making them. The chrome flakes off really easily. Anyways, that gets us to 4 arms for Mr. Squid. Next up, I want to make a comically large torpedo for our villain to be launching. When I'm not stealing random parts from my minifigures, I like to have some of them on display. And my displays just got a whole lot better, thanks to the amazing A1 Combo 3D printer from Bamboo Lab, the sponsor of today's video. Before, I used to just stand my minifigures on the top of my shelf, but they'd always fall over. To fix that, I went ahead and designed a display system for my guys. Let's print a few of those out now. And thanks to the AMS light, I can print these out multicolored. To hold the figures properly, I've designed in a spot for a 2x4 brick. This allows for flexibility in how the figure is attached. Typically, all you need is a bracket, but in some cases, such as with our Ranger here, we need a bit more spacing, and I can accomplish that with a slightly different assembly. I've made this system modular with a puzzle piece design, so you can fit together as many segments as you want. They're press fit together, so it takes a little bit to attach them, but they definitely won't be falling apart by accident. In this case, I'm going to use 4. To finish it off, we can use a pair of end caps to round out the sides. And in order to securely mount it on the wall, I've designed this other part for our display to hang from. I'm using a leftover command strip to attach it to my wall. My whole design can then just fit into place over top. The beauty is that you can scale things up and make for some truly impressive displays. The design is even properly spaced to work with any big figs that you want to display. With the A1 combo, getting quality prints has never been so easy for me. I've worked with a lot of printers, and this really is the best option I've come across. If you're either looking to get into the hobby, or if you have an older printer at home, and you're ready to take advantage of the awesome features that this new generation of 3D printers comes with. Full auto calibration is the A1's truly killer feature. It removes all the tedium out of 3D printing and means that you can just get down to creating. It's such a game changer to get a feature like that in an affordable printer. I've gone ahead and uploaded all the files you need for this custom display stand to MakerWorld. While you're there, you can take a look at the storage solutions I've designed and browse the thousands of ready-to-print models uploaded by MakerWorld users. Having a 3D printer has improved my storage solutions and upped my display game, and Bambu Lab's A1 Combo is the perfect printer for getting into 3D printing. Check out the links in my description or scan the QR code on screen to see all Bambu has to offer. Thanks, Bambu. For the torpedo's tail, we can use this old Acrorators part. Let's add in some cheese slopes. Then we can build up a connection point using some Technic bits. This open cone can fit over the Technic connector. And then we can attach a round brick to both parts. To that, I'll add a long axle, which we can thread some wheels onto, including this burn your eyes out Dayglow yellow wheel. Let's continue this cool new color by adding in some fins. I'll connect them by sandwiching these clips between the two wheels. Next, we can use one more wheel, and then this dome part can cap it off. To the dome, I'll attach a boat stud, and then on the inside, some rounded plates. The axle hole in these will allow for the dome to connect in. With that done, I want to add some bubbles coming out the back. For that, we can start with this blue cone, and then add a large axle, which will allow for a bunch of transparent bricks to act as a stream of bubbles. With those bubbles done, let's connect them into the torpedo to complete it. Next, let's make a tactical diving torso for our squid. I'm going for a crazy cartoon supervillain look here, so I think this printed disc might be the perfect thing for his torso. The only problem is that this part comes with no connection points. The solution I came up with was to partially attach 3 connectors to this triaxle. Then add some ball joints. The disc can clip into that, and it holds, but only barely. This connection is super weak, so let me know if you found a better way of connecting Technic discs. Anyways, let's start on the bones of his torso. I'll connect an axle, and then some lift arms, so we can then add a longer axle in. Onto that, I'll add a connector, and a purple throwbot foot. Then, some Technic cams will leave a spot to connect in some sockets. First, I'll attach a stopper axle, and then a bushing. Next, let's connect that in while adding a second socket. We can then mirror that over to the other side. Let's put a connection point here, so that that disc can connect into place. Up next, I have some tubes which I think would make for a great addition around the shoulders. Let's circle these tubes back onto themselves to form a loop. Then, I'll give the back of our build some pin connection points for the tube loops to attach into. Next, we can swing them into place. While we're at it, let's add some more tubes here. I can connect in some small Technic beams. Then, let's clip the other side of the beam into his back. We need a few more socket connections so we can incorporate a couple more tentacles. I'll attach 2 together and strengthen the joints with some friction add-ons. After that, a few more connectors and axles will allow for a connection point into the torso. Do squids have torsos? Maybe I should just be saying body. Anyway, to complete the back of his torso, let's use this purple mask.
With some minor surgery, we can add a few connectors, so there's an attachment point for the mask to fit in. And with the torso done, we can turn our attention to building up a stupidly huge shoulder-mounted torpedo launcher for our supervillain. Let's begin that by threading some pulley wheels onto a stopper axle. To them, we can clip in some pins. A pair of wheels go perfectly with that. Then, I have this funky looking part, which I think is from the Life on Mars theme. On the other side, let's slide in another wheel, and then an even bigger style of wheel. Continuing our wheel trend, I have a pair of Robo Rider wheels, which have these super fun characters on them. To fill in the gap between them, we can temporarily remove one and add in this basketball net rim, which just happens to be the perfect size to fill in the gap. To round things out with one last wheel, let's use some pins to connect in a pulley, which has an axle hole to connect into the stopper axle. Up next, let's connect the most important part yet. Wait, how'd that get there? Like I was saying, let's attach the most important part yet, this large pullback motor. To attach it in, we'll need to add some large Technic connectors. All that will allow for this axle connection. On the handle, let's use a right angle axle and a macaroni. That should fit in here nicely. On the barrel side, I'll add a Technic brick and some more Technic bits. That allows for the two assemblies to come together. Next up, some tubes would really look the part here. We can attach them in with a few pins. Up next, let's detail the top of the torpedo launcher by tiling it off and then adding an oversized fin, presumably for improved hydrodynamics. One last touch I want to include is a rangefinder. This super niche hockey minifigure stand is the perfect part for the job. First, I'll connect a couple of these pin connectors. Then, turning our attention to the rangefinder optics, we can use this cool UFO part, which I think came in a collectible minifigure. It's a really nice part. I hope they keep it in the rotation. That can sit here and get locked into place with a clear dish. Let's attach that in to complete our Squid's torpedo launcher. In order to make our Squid stand up freely, I think we should make one tentacle, which he'll balance on top of. I'll construct it in a similar way to the other tentacles, but this time I'm wanting to make a large loop so that there's a big surface area to stand on. Some round bricks can be used for the straight sections between the curves of those big macaronis. In the end, that leaves us with a stable base to build up the stand from. Let's continue it up with some more macaroni, which I'll spiral so that the connection point is roughly centered on the bottom loop of the tentacle. I'm hoping that this leg is sturdy enough to hold up our Squid, but I doubt he'll be able to hold that gigantic torpedo launcher we designed, so I think a stand is needed there. Let's build it out of some transparent Technic beams and a bunch of pins. On one end, I'll add a ball joint so that we can pose the torpedo launcher as needed. For the base of the stand, let's use some Technic bricks, which we can attach a pair of slopes into. Onto this, I want to build up a rocky outcropping, starting by adding a pair of brackets. Then, this socket brick for the stand to snap into later. Let's detail the rock by adding in some gray slopes. This tan wedge plate can give the rock some color variety. Then here we can add some kelp. Let's lock it in with another slope. Next, we can extend the kelp upwards. And this seems like an appropriate spot to include a little fish, to really drive home that we're underwater here. Then let's snap in the torpedo launcher stand. I designed the rock to replace a segment of the tentacle we built earlier. This way, all our bases can be one part. With that complete, it's time for the final assembly. Let's start by attaching the head. Then, we can add his tentacles. I think the launcher will be perfect here. But first, let's connect in those remaining tentacles, including the base. Afterwards, we can attach the torpedo launcher. I've also built a stand for the torpedo, which we can attach in. And now, it's time for the beauty shots. Thanks to all the amazing people supporting me over on Patreon. And special shout out to my newest patron, Cody Agostini. You're the building blocks that make this channel possible. If you like this video, YouTube thinks you'll enjoy this one too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. But until then, happy building.